Hey, okay, let's get started. Let's talk about some gear. And everybody likes to hear about gear, so we're going to do techniques, but where would we be without our gear? So I'm going to go over basically what I'm using, and you can use whatever you want, whatever's working. Real estate photography isn't super critical, in my opinion, because remember, we're putting them up on MLS. It's not like we're doing billboards, not like we're doing super high resolution for design photography. We're doing small images. We want to do the best work we can, but we can get by with cameras like this, a Sony a6000 mirrorless crop sensor. And this is a Samyang 12mm f2.0 lens, the same as the Rokinon. I'm a Nikon shooter, and my regular camera is a Nikon D750, but I really enjoy using this small format camera, and it works great. The lens I set to infinity, and everything from 3 feet on is sharp. I never have to focus. I never have to change anything. I'm shooting at f8 here, so I generally shoot real estate anywhere between 7.1 and f8, and that is what works for me. If I was shooting something in the foreground really close, I might increase my aperture to go up to f11, f13, and if I was shooting something that was more critical, like a design shot, I might do that too. But for real estate, f8 is perfect for me. Now, this is the Sony a6000. A lot of you have been hearing about it, and I'll be honest with you, I learned it from Wayne Capelli, and I just really like this camera, and it just works great for me. I also like the fact that I can see actually in the viewfinder or in the screen, I can see if I'm changing my shutter speed, I can see the aperture changing right away. It's kind of like live view on a traditional DSLR, but it's not. It's even better. Okay, so I've got the camera on let me show you right here. Martin, why don't you come in and show this? By the way, Martin Beebe is my cameraman and producer. Woohoo! Anyway, this is a Really Right Stuff clamp. Okay, it's called a lever clamp. Instead of screwing it, it just snaps closed, snaps open. It also has a bubble level on it. And I want to say one thing, there's a lot of back and forth with people saying, oh, I don't have time for a bubble level, or I just look through my camera, or I use the in-camera level, which I don't think the Sony has one, but my Nikon does. Or I just look through it. Well, let me tell you something. I'm going to show you why I use this, and it works for me. So I'm just going to put it on the camera on the tripod, and look, Martin, can you see this bubble level? I'm just going to put it right in the middle, and it is right on every time. It could be slightly off occasionally, but it's right on. And the reason I like this is if I'm backed up against a wall, I can't get down here to look through my camera. All I have to do to level my camera out is I can come up from the front and I can look over and I just look at my bubble level. And to me, it's the greatest thing, the Really Right Stuff lever clamp, so great. And then the bubble level is the way to go. So we've got that. Now, on here I've got my head, and I choose to have a Manfrotto geared head. Now there's different geared heads, and there's different Manfrottos. There's the 410, there's the plastic one below it, but the 405 I found to be great. It's very easy to move, and it just made me it was so much easier than the 410. So I got the 405, and I've got an old 3046 Manfrotto tripod. And I've been using these since the early 80s. And I like it for many reasons, but one reason is it's got a geared center column, which is super easy and very precise to go along with the preciseness of the geared head. Anyway, the other thing I like about it is if I move, I just go like this and I walk around and I put it down right there. Now, the other thing I like about it is I can totally raise the legs like this, close, 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 and I'm ready to go, okay? It goes up to, can you get this, Martin? It's about 7 feet. That is awesome. It's rock solid. It is heavy, but I wouldn't give it up for anything. You can find them I found this one for $100 with a video head on eBay. They're always on eBay. 3046 Manfrottos. I've been using them since the early 1980s. Anyway, let's get into the shot. And now to go down, all I have to do is undo these 3 legs, bring it down, and I mark my tripod legs so I know exactly where I am, and I level it, and I'm right there, and right there. Okay, and it opens up. The only thing it can't do is it can't go lower, and also the legs can't go independent. So those are the 2 negatives, but everything else is a positive. Okay, so we've talked about the camera, we've talked about the tripod and the head. That's one aspect of it. Next, let's talk about some lights. I don't use this, for this room, I would not use all these lights, and especially wouldn't use a big thing like this, but I'm gonna go over what I've got and what I use and what I would use for this shot. So first thing we've got is I've got a Yongnuo YN560TX, and I use this to trigger and adjust all my Yongnuo flashes. These are really cheap. I went from Nikon to Yongnuo. I still keep my Nikons, but because if these fall over, they're $69, $72. This is $29 for the trigger. It's great stuff. It goes along with this little Sony camera perfectly. Anyway, so I've got that to trigger and to adjust the light. I can adjust each light separately. And as you see, I number or name my lights. So I've got A, B, C. I don't have B out here. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the Yongnuo, and I'm just going to use this in a room like this. I would use 1 single speed light. That's all I would need on here, even with the brown ceiling. So if we had a white ceiling, I bounce straight up, and I'm going to show you that in a minute, but even if we had this brown, which probably takes maybe a half a stop to a stop of light away from a white ceiling, I'm still going to have enough power with this Yongnuo. Okay, the next slide I'm going to talk about, the next thing I want to talk about is the stand. This is called a Manfrotto BAC stand. The reason I use this, and I learned this was originally used by Martin Beebe, your cameraman. I saw it and it was a great idea, but I love it. It's only 7 feet. That's kind of, I wish it was a little taller, but that's okay. The reason I like it is a lot of you know what light on a stick is, and if you've seen any of my tutorials, you know that I try and get my light out there. So I've almost always got possibly a light standing there, a light maybe over there, but I've always got a light in my hand sticking out. And I can't get over that habit because I can get my light exactly where I want it, and these flashes move, the head moves, and I only flash straight up 98% of the time. So I'll move it around to exactly where I want it. But the good thing about this is these open up, they close, and if you had a monopod with feet on it, it might fall over. So anyway, I've got this light on a stick out here. I've got my iPad to trigger it, and I can adjust this right where I want it. And this is what I do all day. There we go, okay? So what I do is when I'm finished with it, I open it up. It's so fast and easy. I cannot tell you how happy I am with those stands. Okay, the next stand I want to talk about, I usually run 2 of these BAC stands. I also have one over there that's a bigger BAC stand. I also got this from Scott Hargis Tutorials. These are great stands. This was $19. It's a Sunpack 8001 UT. Anyway, long story short, the reason we use this, and it's a great idea, is sometimes you need to get your stand in a really small area. Well, this opens up, and you can also do the same thing, light on a stick, really easy, right like that, okay? Not too heavy, maybe heavier than some people want to do, so it's up to you. But the great thing about this is, can you see the floor there, Martin? I can stand this flash in that much footprint. So if I'm in a shower, don't ask me what I'm doing in a shower, but if I'm in a shower or a bathroom, I could put this here. It's almost like the monopod with the feet, but it will open up and just be like that. The great thing too is when I'm done, I walk around with it, open it up, so fast and simple, and it works great. Okay, so those are a couple of idea stands, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Okay, let's go on to another light. Recently got this Streak Light 360. Streak Light is the same as Godex, which is the same as Cheetah, which is the same as Neewer. They're almost exactly the same lights, just different branding. This is Adorama's branding. Anyway, I'm not going to really go into this, but these lights speed lights are powerful enough for a lot of things. This is 360 watt seconds, which is about at least 3 or 4 times more powerful than a speed light. Anyway, it's got an external battery, so it's a little heavier. I can still hold this out like this if I want to do light on a stick. So I can put this up like that and do it right there. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the technicals of this, but I've got a Yongnuo trigger 603 on this to trigger the light. I've also got a Neewer receiver that is going to trigger, that is going to be adjustable. I can adjust this remotely, but I have to use another one because I'm all over the place with my equipment. So this is a super powerful light for most everything. Then, I've had it for 2 weeks, so it's new to me, but I'm really happy with it. Then, we've got this. This is the famous N-Flash, which I didn't have a lot of luck with my first one, but I got another one, and I'm pretty happy with it. I used it this morning. This is 680 watt seconds. It's got a removable battery right here, goes in here, lasts forever, and it is a bad mofo. It is really, please edit that out. It has got a lot of power. You can see here the light in there. And it is when you really need something more. And I've got it on a stand. This can go 12 feet up. And I put it on here, or I can just hold it and do it. And I usually have this as a slave, so I don't have any trigger on it because I'm on the Yongnuo things and I'm not on the N-Flash trigger. So anyway, long story short, I'm just going to put this into the stand. I'm not going to use it now, but I will probably use it in the future on one of these tutorials when we have a big room with a 20-foot ceiling that you got to just blast. Let me show you here. This is why I use this iPad. It's because I can see everything I'm doing. I can also completely control the camera from my iPad. And once I got used to this, it's very hard for me to go back and look at a little screen. So I'm just going to do everything I do every day is through an iPad. It doesn't take me any longer. A lot of people say, oh, Camera Ranger takes me too long. I can't do it. Well, I would take longer in editing, trying to fix my mistakes. So got this here, and I've got a life-proof case with a strap. The new ones don't have straps, but you can find an old one. It's an iPad mini, works great. Okay, so, you know, when you're getting started, it's a lot of stuff going on. It's like a wedding photographer. At the beginning, you're shooting lights, you're shooting cameras. You're not shooting people. Well, we're shooting a room. We've got a room here that has a couch, table, lamps. There's a few things you gotta check. So once you set up your composition, then you got to come in and do a little tweaking. That's one thing I love about the Camera Ranger is I can see what I'm doing. I can see what the camera is seeing, and I can move chairs. I got no problem moving chairs. I know some people don't move anything. I move everything. 35 years in the movie industry as an on-set dresser and a prop master. This is what I did, and this is what I like, and it's really important. I might even move a pillow. I may move this. Crease that, I may tweak that, I may move the couch a little bit. I want to make sure that the seam in the lamp isn't showing, okay? That's important stuff because you'll see it later at home and you go, oh my God, and you'll have to spend time cloning it out. Okay, we've got shades here. We're going to deal with a window pull, but we've got to, you know, see, are we happy with them? Are they even? And I'm actually not going to spend too much time on this, but you want to make sure they're even. I'm looking at this going, hey, how is the composition of this? I can move it just the camera because I can see what my camera's doing. I don't have to go back to the camera to see it. That's why I tether. And whether you tether with a laptop, whether you tether with a Camera Ranger, Sony app, or a Nikon app, or a Canon app, I believe in tethering, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And this is Rich with Rich Baum Photography, Sacramento, California.